Well, I'm excited about this one. Selfishly, this is the panel I've been looking forward to the most because my team's watching. They're going to learn from them. I'm going to learn from them. How fast these two guys grew honestly made me a little mad. Because I remember how hard I had to work to get to $4,000 a month, and they were like, oh, we did that in the first 2 days. And so I literally have no prepared questions on purpose because I want to let the conversation flow. I got some stuff I know that I want to ask them. But before we jump in, Kevin, you spoke earlier, but quick introduction again, and then Mike, we'll let you.
Kevin with Nashville Media, and what else should I say?
That's good.
Okay.
What's up, everybody? My name is Mike. I am with Elevated Media out of Knoxville, Tennessee.
And you guys are somehow like best friends, right?
Yeah. So a funny story is I was just getting in the industry just about a year ago, just over a year. Originally from Illinois, was brand new, followed Eli on social media, like brand new, just getting into it. I knew I was going to move to Knoxville, didn't know anybody down there. Was doing my research, looking up competition, things like that, and I fell on this guy, and I reached out to him pretty much right away. I saw his social media presence, and then ended up got a phone call with him, and we kind of hit it off on the phone call. And then I actually drove down there. This was still while I was working my full-time job. Drove down there and kind of shadowed him for 2 days. And ever since that day, we've pretty much talked every day since. And kind of formed a great camaraderie. We kind of laugh like we're in the trenches together. Most of our conversations happen at like midnight to 1 a.m. when we're like exhausted from the day. And I'm like, you still awake? And he's like, unfortunately. And so we've just bonded in like being in the same, scaling growth in our business and being in the same position and also being so close to each other, only 2.5 hours away, with the ability to kind of refer business back and forth.
And funny caveat is that when he came down to learn from me, I was like, dude, I don't really know what I'm doing here. I go, take everything I say with a grain of salt. I was like, well, we're going to figure it out together. Yeah. And then I think you actually had DM'd me on Instagram, and I left you on, I ghosted you for like a month.
Yeah, I couldn't get a hold of him for like a month. I'm like calling him, we like rescheduled the call, and I'm like, who is this guy? Who does he think he is?
But yeah, so.
Now I get it, though. He was in the heat of it all. So.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So where's your business, just for context, where's your business at right now? Like, what's your team look like? Revenue, if you want to share it, like what are things looking like?
Sure, so I got started in Knoxville. I kind of picked Knoxville on the map. I wanted to move to a new city where I kind of had no distractions to get started. I got to Knoxville on August 1st of 2023, so I'm just over a year. What are we, a year and a couple months? And on our 12th month in business, we hit our first six-figure month.
Crazy. And real quick, because I really want to touch on this point. When he first called me, here he is telling everybody how he did $100,000 of revenue in 1 month. But on that initial phone call, you should have heard all of his fears and doubts. I wish we would have recorded that call, because literally we could just play that call instead of this panel, and you guys are like, I get it, because he had all the same fears about, well, what about the competition? Why would the realtors choose me? They already have photographers. Every other fear, limiting belief that a lot of people have expressed, he had the exact same fears. So yeah.
So what do you think it is for you two that contributed to the really fast growth? Because most people sitting out here, I certainly didn't grow anywhere near that fast, have a lot slower of a growth story. I would imagine luck is not the answer you're going to give. So what did you do specifically, Kevin? And then we'll jump over to you, Mike.
I thought you were going to ask him first. So. What I did to grow, he grew a lot quicker than I did, but I think what I did, really, I don't know if this is the answer you guys want to hear, but really, I just didn't know I wasn't supposed to grow that fast. Yeah. So I think some of, and I think the reason that is because I moved very, very quickly in the beginning. I didn't give myself time to develop those doubts. I'm like, Eli.
When you say you move quickly, what did the day look like at that point?
So when you said, hey, you can make 10 grand a month, right? That was my goal when we first started. When you can make 10 grand a month doing this, I'm like, done. That's the goal. So I quit my job, and I had the mentality of I'm not going home until I could look my wife in the eye and tell her I did everything I could. Yeah. I'm justifying.
So you were in I'm trying to get the detail. You were in your car, and what were you doing? What does that mean?
Talk about the Twilight story. You're just rolling around Nashville.
So I did weird things. Like I was like literally driving around Nashville. And I was like, there's an agent's sign. Okay. I would like take a video selfie in front of that sign. It was, why I grew quickly. I think I really focused on building those personal connections, and then just like kind of like stalking agents a little bit, and just like, and then kind of creating a buzz and just letting them know like, here we are. Here's Nashville Media. We're open for business. Tell everybody. Like we're ready.
Yeah. The one thing I really like picked up from Kevin in Nashville when I first met him, I mean, I'm brand new. I barely know how to click the shutter button. But one thing he told me that stuck out to me and I really implemented like immediately was he always says like, yeah, we're not in the photography business. Like we are in the people business. We're in almost like an entertaining business. Like everything needs to be a spectacle. And that's what he told me there. And I didn't really quite understand what he even meant there, but everything needs to be almost bigger than it seems. And I adopted that like almost immediately. So every shoot that I was at, I was giving away merch. I'm taking selfies. I'm asking them, like I'm taking selfies with them. I'm posting on our story. I was backlogging houses that I did last month, reposting it to make it feel like we were everywhere. Like if I didn't meet an agent and they didn't ask me, how are you everywhere? I failed essentially. And I wanted to just blow up social media. So when the people did see me, did find me, did look me up, it looked like we were busy, we were active. I'm doing talking head reels when I didn't want to. And basically just doing the stuff that I didn't want to do, but I knew it was going to give me success, essentially. And I just blew up everything as much as I could. You know, I would ask for a referral, and then I would grab their number, and I would call them right there, and I'd say, I'm with Eli right now. He just referred me to you. Let's do business together. And I'd take a selfie, and I'd text it to him. And I'd be like, when are we working together? So like just being so kind of like bold, and especially in my market in Knoxville, Tennessee, it's not a big market by any means. I mean, we're in East Tennessee. And I brought in a different energy, a different level of not your classic photographer. I came in with super energy. I'm like sprinting around, I'm running around, and I think it just really wowed people. And what I kind of boiled it down to, is especially now what I'm like teaching our employees to kind of like mimic that style is it's like all about the client experience. And like the client experience has to just like, it doesn't have to be just like good customer service. It has to like completely blow them away. Like if they don't leave that shoot, like sitting in their car almost saying like, what the heck just happened? Like they don't even realize it's so out of the normal from their guy they've been using for 15 years that it's creating this hype. I took a selfie. They're promoting on my page. I'm posting behind the scenes of their listings. Like the amount of transactions that we've even facilitated from our social media, like connecting a buyer with the seller before it even hits the market. Like things like that is super, super powerful. And we're able to grow that brand and through that client experience. And it just took us to a different level. And also, I would say getting on agents on camera was a massive, massive deal for us, especially in a market like Knoxville where it didn't really exist. And the stigma was, oh, my agents don't get on camera, right? That was the stigma. That's what they told me. But I just came in at the approach was like, I wasn't really taking no for an answer. I'm finding a way to get them on camera. Whether it's making them walk through the house and then I sneak a mic on them and I say, stand here and say this. And before they knew it, they had 5 talking points and I give them the video back tomorrow and they're like, what just happened? And
what makes you, this is a weird question, but what makes you like this? Because, I mean, I think the stuff you said, everybody here kind of knows you should do that stuff.
Yeah.
I didn't do it. I mean, I think it's fear partly, you know, there's a lot of things, but like what makes you like that, you think? Have you always been like that? You guys know what I'm talking about. Like, there's very few people on the earth that make me tired listening to them in a good way. It's all good.
I think a little bit of it has to do with the way I was brought up. So my I was brought up in a family of a small business owner, right? Yeah. We owned a small furniture store in Champaign, Illinois, a small little college town in the Midwest. So I just grew up like with like almost like a serial entrepreneur, right? Where it was.
Did you think you were gonna make money?
I didn't. I had no idea. Honestly, when I really went in, I remember I had a full-time job signed in Chicago. I actually was accepted on it. I had kind of a big kind of crisis in my life, and I was like, you know, I'm 26 years old. Like, now's the time. I've always wanted to do this. I was following Eli for like 2 years at the time. I was just the kind of the kid that's like following all the businesses, right? Drop shipping, this and that, and Eli's stuff. I was watching him maybe for 2 years, and I eventually was like, I'm gonna just do it. Like I bought the course, I bought all the gear. I had no camera experience. Picked Knoxville, Tennessee on the map to move down there. You know, with no friends, no family, no connections.
How important was that, do you think?
I think that was like crucial for me. It put me in a head zone where, you know, I had like no choice but to hustle, but to grind. It was almost like, I was like, I spent the money on the course. Honestly, my realistic thought going down, I was like, if this doesn't work out, I was like, I'm making my money back on the course. Like that's really what I went into it, like month 1.
You did it in month 1, to be fair.
Now, what did you do your first month?
We did 10 grand our first month.
He was in coaching for like 30 seconds, then he beat the game and he was out.
Well, it was funny because I remember I'm in Illinois finishing up my job. Like I already was planning on doing it. I was moving August 1st, and I'm like faking like I'm in Knoxville, right? I'm like faking it. I'm like in Illinois, like it's probably like honestly illegal, but I'm like just like to do whatever it takes mentality. I'm like in neighborhoods in Illinois, like droning, right? And I'm like posting them. I'm acting like I'm in Knoxville. And people are reaching out to me, like I'm creating a buzz already from doing this. And they're like, where is this neighborhood in Knoxville? And I was like, oh, we're still in Illinois, you know, we're coming down August 1st. And we were getting business, and I was turning it down before I got to Knoxville August 1st. So I remember I was moving in, like my parents are there with me. I'm like moving into my new apartment, and I was like leaving to go do shoots the day I got there August 1st. I was lined up. I think I had 3 shoots that day. And ever since then, it just never stopped. It just never stopped.
Your energy doesn't stop either.
Yeah.
So, Kevin, on your side, a lot of people, I mean, this was me a long time ago. It just took forever. Like, I would get to 3K and I'd be excited and get to 4K. And I just didn't, I think I was just too scared to do anything. And looking back, I could have grown a lot faster, obviously, with what I know now. But even if I heard that, like you talk, I don't think I would have done it. So like what for you has been helpful for you just to get stuff done and actually move your business forward? There's a lot of people here that are like 3 to 4K that have been kind of stable, or 10K and been kind of stable, and they probably know what they need to do. But I guess any advice for them to sort of break out of that mold they've put themselves in and actually go out there and, you know, instead of hesitating to make 20 calls for 45 minutes and then making 3 calls, like making 60 calls in an hour kind of thing. Any thoughts?
I don't want to sound redundant, but just having that all-in mentality. Because when you're 1 foot in, 1 foot out like that, that's where you end up stuck at 3 to 4K. Because you may have a part-time job, you may have other options, you're not fully committed. So when I quit my job and this was it, I mean, you were scared for me. You know, I don't think I realized how like what I had just done, but you were scared for me.
We were in the garage in Austin at the time, and I told Kenny and Jared, I was like, he quit his job. I was like, we need to help him.
What you told me not to do, but you know, just and, you know, if I would have given myself another week or two to think about going into rep, I wouldn't have done it. Because I would have the what ifs and the fears and it would have overcome, and I would have sat on the sidelines for 2 years. I just never would have done it, or maybe I would have tried and I would have sat at 3 to 4K. Because honestly, 3 to 4K is like.
So it's like that you need to get yourself in a position of uncomfort, is what you're saying. For you, that was really important.
For me, yeah. I had to put myself in a situation where I didn't give myself another choice.
Yeah.
Right, and that made me do weird things like showing up to a real estate agent's open house, which people will tell you not to do. Like, don't show up to their open house. But I did that because I'm like, I need business today. Yeah. You know, and getting on stage was uncomfortable. Making Zillow cold calls to that agent when I didn't really know what I was doing was uncomfortable. But I forced myself to get myself out of my comfort zone. Actually, I wrote that down.
What is that? There's something on there I need to say. What is this?
You know, just talking to people during the breakout session and at lunch, like the message that I'm getting from everybody here is just like, get out of your comfort zone. I actually was so excited when I like connected those dots. I actually posted it on my story. Like, go check it out. It's like, do something today to get way out of your comfort zone. And I think, and I've heard that same kind of like theme from different people at different points in their business, whether they're starting out, whether they're at 20, 30K. It's like, do something that is gonna get you way out of your comfort zone. Like I did that. Like I didn't want to make those cold calls. I didn't want to go talk to the agent. And you know, like I actually did walk up to a lot of open houses, and I did have the door slammed in my face. But I was like, okay, on to the next one, because I had no other choice.
So you have to put yourself in a position where the pain of not doing it is greater than the pain of doing it. And so I think that's where the uncomfort comes in, is if you're just, if you're making 8K a month, 15K, there's a lot of 15K a month people that have wanted to hire and scale for the last 3 conferences that we've done. And they're still at 15K, they're still at 20K. And so that's why I talked initially about opportunity cost. It's like if you don't, if your business by this point could be making 30,000 a month and you're making 15, you feel good because you're like, I'm making 15 grand a month. I see the people making 5K a month. I'm doing pretty good. None of my friends are doing this good or whatever. And then you're like, man, every month I'm not doing what I could have. And that's why I like that framework, because it kind of contributes to being uncomfortable. I think a lot of people, and there's no like big picture statement here, but I think a lot of people want to be happy and they want comfort. But if you pursue that short term, you don't get any of it long term, from what I've seen, or a lot less of it. And so it's a hard thing to put yourself into. Take it or leave it. This is not my idea, and I would guess that very few of you will do this. I would not do it, but if you really want to push yourself, I think it's Tim Ferriss, I'm not sure. Someone just yell the name if I'm wrong, but you basically, and it's a great place to do it, you just go out to the casino somewhere and lay on the floor for a little bit. And if someone asks you, what you're doing, you say, I'm just resting. And it like gets you in that mindset. So if you need a little help with that, do it. I won't be joining you, but do it.
But real quick to touch on like people that are at like that 10,000, 15,000 a month, I'm trying to think like if I were stuck at that level, like you have a really good client base. Like you have a lot of people that have consistently worked with you. And I mean, I'm firsthand experience of, I've been blessed that we haven't had to do I haven't done any outreach. And it all came organically and almost 100% from Instagram and 100% from the client experience. And I think with your current clients, I don't even think you need to do outreach. You can make the experience so good with energy, with being an expert, with getting them on camera and just focusing on them and almost just like recreating your relationship with them, that they can grow it for you. Because I mean, I'm firsthand experience with it. Like we're getting so many new clients that we can barely even hang on, just because we grew so fast that I'm still trying to figure it out. I mean, I'm 13 months in, 14 months in. So I think don't underestimate the current clients you do have by looking to go get more. I think just by making it just so incredible for them, you'd be shocked how fast that reciprocates and comes back to you with other people. How they will now go reach out and say like, man, they got me on camera, or they're an expert on this. And I'm a little like, and also don't underestimate like selling in this industry. We have such a good product, and when you have passion behind it and believe it, you become like an authority in this industry very, very quickly, because there's not a lot of your competition that's going to be out there selling.
Yeah.
And literally like anything, I like, this is what I tell our staff too. We like to have an opinion on like absolutely everything. Like even if they're like, should I put this towel there? I literally step back and I'm like, move it here. And I'm like, no, let's move it back. Realistically, I don't care where the towel goes. But like when you do that enough, they're like, this is what they say. They go like, Mike knows what he's doing.
This
is really what they think.
No, you got to have a strategy, so you don't want to move too much.
Yeah.
You got to do one yes, I need to move that, and two no's.
And two no's.
And then a yes again. Yeah.
But it's little stuff like that, you just become like an authority, and that's really what I preach. It's like we're the experts, we're the authority. We have opinion on absolutely everything. We're selling. Someone orders a base package, I'm calling them and being like, I'm shooting for your competition. Like, you got to get on video. Let's get you on camera. Let's do it. And a lot of these agents, they don't know what they want, and they're begging to be sold. I hear all the time where they're like, my agents don't spend enough money, and I'm like, they just need to be sold.
Well, you know what? I was talking to a couple of people about this now. A lot of people are worried about competition at every stage of their business. But if you think about it, like all of us are extremely lucky because we compete with photographers for a living. Like if you could actually sit down and say who would be the easiest people to compete with, it's generally photographers, right? I don't mean that like it's funny, but like I don't mean it as a diss too much. It's just, there's a lot of people focused on what they enjoy about this industry. They like making the art. They don't have any goal of scaling. That's awesome, but we're lucky to have that. And so when you do what Mike's saying and you push it, it's like literally a dream industry to compete in. And then you pair that with, everybody knows the 3 R's at this point, but it's kind of what you're saying, Mike. It's like if you can just serve your clients well, they keep paying you, they refer you, and your business grows faster than you can handle it. Getting to 10K is the beast, though.
Yeah, it's a whole different ball game to control it once you get to that upper level. Just to create the systems to do it. But the client acquisition, like if you do the right things and you come in with energy and just it's so easy to be different. Yeah. It's so easy to be different, and they notice right away, especially if you're just being intentional on site and just selling, right? Everything is intentional, like getting them on camera. Because every agent that that's like our biggest driving factor with how we grew so quickly. And I mean, I already touched it, but it's such an important part. It's like getting people on camera is sales, right? They tell me no every single day, but I'm like, here's your mic.
Yeah.
And I'm like, stand here, and you're gonna say this, and then they're like, okay, and they start going.
Yeah.
And then bam, they get the video back. It looks great, and they're a client for life. And the power of video, especially in Tennessee, I don't know if you experience this. I'm sure other people do, but they're very relationship based with their photographers. We have a lot of clients that are like, we have shot with the same guy for 15 years, and you're the first one we've ever used in 15 years, and it's because of we've got agents on camera, and they feel like they're missing out now, where they're literally switching from their guys from 15 to 20 years, and they're testing us out.
Yeah.
And then we get in, and then they're like, what have I been missing out on? And they're like, oh my goodness, we're posting selfies with them. I'm posting their house. We're marketing it for them. We're coming in a different approach. I mean, Kevin said it too. Like, we never call each other photographers. We're a media company. We're a part of your team. I'm finding different ways to talk to people. I talk to the businessman. I'm talking about the market, right? I'm not talking about the house.
Yeah.
It's shifting how you're speaking to different people. So it's just. I think what that boils down to is sales. And don't be afraid to sell. Be the expert. Be the authority, and as you do that, it's then easier to sell because you're passionate and they need your product.
If I was like a family member and I asked you what you did for a living, what would your answer be?
I would say I'm a real estate media owner.
And that right there, like
I own a real estate media
sometimes
company.
I'm talking to people on the phone and like we're trying to figure out like what's their roadblock, and I feel like sometimes we start going around in circles, and I'm like, okay, I go, let's try this little exercise. I've tried it with a few of you guys in this room. It's like, all right, stop. When somebody comes up to you on the street or your family and they ask you, what do you do for a living? A lot of people say, oh, I'm a real estate photographer. Yeah. And that's it. If you perceive yourself as just a real estate photographer, that's how your clients will perceive you. Yep. And it's like, well, if that's all the value I bring to you as a photographer, then that's where you end up with these
buckets.
Yeah, like small average order values, 3, 4K months, because like you perceive yourself like unknowingly, like it's But if I think what Mike's saying here is that he very much like this is something that we kind of workshop together, but we tell this to clients, like we tell them, like, we shake their hand, and after we kind of like proved it a little bit, like, hey, I don't want to just be your photographer, I want to be a part of your team, I want to help you build your brand, and then all these actions that he's talking about back that up. And I think I lost my train of thought. Go ahead.
No, I know you have something on there. We were talking about the photographer AB thing. What is that?
When I spoke to this guy when he was thinking about going into this industry, and it was like about a year ago. And around that same time, I remember talking to a handful of other people who were also thinking about starting, their real estate media business. And fast forward a year later, and I made this observation, and I just thought it was kind of cool. I went out to Miami and we hung out and we did a YouTube video, and guess who the first person was to text me after that video was posted? Like, this guy. He's like, oh, I just saw your video. It just so happened that around the same time I was talking to another guy who was really struggling to break past like 2,000 or 3,000 a month, and he'd been at this for a year. And I was like, oh, okay. And the questions he was asking me, we had just kind of covered on that video. So I'm like, oh, did you watch the video? He's like, no. I was like, oh, okay. Well, it's fine. It just came out. Oh, what about the one that we did like 3 months ago? No. I was like, okay. Well, have you watched any of his videos? Have you watched the Spiro podcast? Have you what have you? And he was like, oh yeah, I guess I should probably watch those.
Still.
Yeah. Still, that's exactly what it was. He was still asking me like, who's your editor questions. I'm like, oh my god. If you guys, a lot of you guys are sending me DMs right now, and thank you. I'll get back to you eventually. But if you guys send me that question, the who's your editor question, I will block you. I get that question asked like every other day, but it's just, and I don't mean to sit here and kick him or anything, but it's like there's something to be learned there. He just gets like, what is he like? Because I wrote that down. Like, what was the difference between that guy? They've both been in business for a year. They're both the same age. They're both in great markets. Why, after kind of seeing Mike's journey, like, why has this guy struggled? And why has Mike thrived? Like, what is it? Like, if you had a guess.
Yeah, I mean, I think focus and what you choose to put your time into really matters, because two people can have the same amount of time in a year and do dramatically different things. And so I think really what happens to a lot of people, I'm included in this bunch, is really what you need to do, but you're uncomfortable with doing it. And so you spend a lot of time adding things between where you are now and what you actually need to do. So like with the editor thing, we use it as a joke. It's really sad. It costs people, probably hundreds of thousands of dollars a month in this room in lost focus from spending time on stuff that doesn't matter. And so you really have to get good at going like, hey, what's the thing that I least want to do in my business? What's the thing that I'm most scared of doing? And just doing that as the next step versus like, oh, if it's your first shoot, right, or your fifth shoot or whatever it is, you have that shoot and you're like, well, it could go bad if my editor isn't perfect. Therefore, I actually need to find an editor as my next step. Right? Or like let's say with the outbound method, which is just we call it the outbound method because people have just this huge aversion to when we say cold calling. And so we just disguise it. It's just cold calling with the strategy, right? And so that like everybody here knows that if you at the end of the day, don't do this, go network. This is more valuable right now. But like that if you went and spent an hour looking on Zillow and you looked at a listing, you can do this the Instagram method too. I'm not saying you have to do something super scary, but like I'm using a scary thing as an example. You pull up a listing on Zillow, you see what media it has. Maybe it doesn't have drone photos. You click on the agent, you see how many other listings they have. If they have one listing in the last 2 years, don't use them. Find a different agent, right? Or at least don't offer them everything. But if they have 25 listings they've sold in the last 6 months, call them and offer some crazy thing, right? Hey, I noticed you have 3 listings right now. None of them have drone photos. Love to go shoot some drone photos for you. And just, that's going to move your business forward, right? But it's like the little things, oh, I need to do this, oh, I need to do this, oh, I need to build a system for this, oh, I need to set this in place. And so I think that's the biggest thing.
People focus on, oh, I need to get my website up and running. It's like, why? Why? You don't have a business yet.
My website launched last week.
Or they spend too much time on their business cards. And I think at this point, I'm just doing it to prove a point. Like I don't have business cards or a website.
Yeah, I was going to ask. I was like, why'd you make a website, Mike?
Yeah, and so, but like that guy I was talking to that was asking me questions on like like Kevin, what do you think? Like why? What advice do you have for me to break past 4K? And the questions he was asking are like photo editor questions, video editing questions, and then he's like, oh, I think I just really need to like dial in on my video. It's like, I don't want to just sit here and like belittle him, but it's like, okay, I get it.
He's not here. You can belittle him.
Okay,
Maybe he is. I don't know.
He's probably watching though. So, but it's like I get it, but that's why it's so important to have the support system because your support system will be, hey, dummy, you're paying attention to the wrong things. Like, let's go build out a business. You don't have a business right now. So
because what we're doing is not like an extraordinary skill, right? Like it doesn't take like everybody can do it. It just is out of a comfort zone. And I'm trying to like think why did I grow so quick? Like I'm just trying to think it's like, and if I wasn't getting business, it's because I would just like do whatever it takes to get that business. Like I would be droning a neighborhood if I didn't. I'm pretending like I'm busy. I would be walking into open houses. I would be, cold calling. Like I don't love to cold call. Like believe it or not, I mean no one really does.
Nobody does. That's the secret. Nobody likes it.
But
if they do, you don't want to know them.
But if I wasn't getting business, that's what I'd be doing. And it's like not a secret. Everybody deep down kind of knows what they want to do. I just think it's the people that would rather, like you said, would rather deal with the pain now than the pain later of not having it. Yeah. And just kind of doing whatever it takes. Like he said, like he didn't want to come home, to his wife and say like, oh, I didn't get anything today. It was like, I'm getting something.
So what are some
having that mentality?
Sometimes I feel like I just ramble and ramble and ramble. It's like I don't know what I'm trying to say here, but it's like, and I think sometimes like when I hear you speak, I'm like, dang, and I find myself questioning myself when I listen to him and be like, well, that's just Mike, so that's why he's crushing it, and that's it. So then I don't even try. So in hearing Mike, what are some actionable items that I can do that everyone can kind of take back home? So everything that he's talking about, like it's a lot of mindset stuff. It's a lot of like how you carry yourself. But what are some of the actionable items? Like what I'm hearing him say is that he created hype and excitement, and he went out there and created the relationships and created songbird customers. Yeah. Right. He over delivered. He was over the top with his input and just the excitement, and they walked away from the appointment like, whoa. And what that did was that they went back to their brokerage and they told everyone about him. So creating a songbird customer, right? What are some other? I was
just gonna say, I think when you approach something with high energy, you win faster, and that fuels your energy, and then you keep winning faster, and so it's kind of like this. Yeah, you snowball it, right? And if you get into kind of a funk where you're flat, and you have to get around people, and, shout out to everyone for coming here. Again, I always like to look back and look at all the stupid things I did. I just stayed in my office basically and wondered why I wasn't growing faster. And so getting around people who, I have a buddy, he was here earlier, he left. His name's Eric, great guy, and he, I talked to him a couple years ago. It's the rep side of things, but it's just interesting. I've tried to do this as much as I can now. And I was talking to him, and we'd started, doing our stuff about the same time, and we were chatting about how much revenue he was doing, and it was like 4 or 5 times what I was doing. And I was mad. Like, I was so mad for a while. Not in a bad way, not like I wanted him to lose. I was like, we had the same computer, the same amount of time, right? And I'm like, what am I doing wrong? And that fueled me to completely change my business. And then we beat him, and I can say that because he's not here. He'd probably disagree with me. But anyway, I think that's really important, is just resetting your perspective on what that looks like. You said this. You didn't know you weren't supposed to grow that fast, right?
Yeah.
And so I think for everybody that's like, oh, this is great. 100,000 in a year is like, that's crazy. And you're probably not going to get that. But shooting for it and being like, oh, that could happen if I went absolutely nuts, I think is more likely to get you to 30 than going like, oh, I'm at 4K this year. I think I'm going to do 6 next year. It's just really, big goals and big action.
Yeah, and I think it's a testimony, because especially from someone like my perspective, like it wasn't even on my radar, like being a creative or being a camera person, right? And it's like a testimony to what this industry is really capable. Because someone like me, there's got to be a young entrepreneur out there that sees the other kind of flashy stuff.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is just an amazing business. I was telling people the other day, and I'm like, our product, we know exactly who to target.
Yeah.
They need our product, and it's easy to train, and it's scalable, and it's so easy to sell.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this industry is just amazing. I get hyped up from it, because I'm like,
when you
I fell in love with it.
No, it's beautiful.
It's almost I don't want to say this in a bad way, but it's almost too easy.
Yeah.
It's so easy. We know exactly who to call. We have all their numbers online, and you can just call them and sell them.
And when you get them as a client, they keep paying.
And they keep paying.
Yeah.
It's just an amazing.
How long has that been at 0, you guys?
I don't know.
I don't know. Just
I'm next, so I'm just taking my own time, which is just fine.
I remember one time he had that epiphany. He was like, dude, it's so easy to make money. It's like, no, it's
well, I had a mindset shift. I was about 3 months in, and that's when it kind of hit me. And I'm in a very unique situation, right? I moved to a new city where I had no family, no friends, no girlfriend, nothing, and I was all in focused. And about 3 months in, I had this kind of epiphany happen where we started to get some revenue in, and I was like, oh my goodness, my competition has different priorities. And if I had a family, if I had kids, if I had this, my priorities would have been different. But I was like, this is my time. I might never get this opportunity again. Like I saw the window, and I didn't double down, I didn't 10x down. I just went completely all in, because I was like, I'm not gonna miss this window. When am I gonna be 27 years old, in a new city where I have this opportunity? So it's just a testimony of what really can happen, how much you can change your life in literally 365 days. We grew a $1 million company, and it's a testimony of what you can do if you can truly commit 1 year, whether even if you have a spouse and kids, if you could sit down with them and say we just need to go all in for 1 year, we could change our lives, what that could really look like, because that's all it really takes.
I have nothing to add.
Yeah, there you go. Me neither. Mike, Kevin, thank you guys. I appreciate it.